Okay, welcome back to What She Said Sports. I hope everybody's having a good weekend. All right, there's already some people in here. Welcome, 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 welcome. All right, so welcome back to What She Said Sports. This is the weekend edition. It's a rainy Saturday night here in Atlanta, so might be a lot of people indoors, outdoors. So tune in. Let's make sure, y'all, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. If you have been with us before, make sure to hit the like button on your way in. If you can't stay long, be sure to hit the like button on your way out. All right. So as y'all can see, I'm wearing my Falcons gear. I'm also wearing Cowboys gear too. So I'm wearing my NFL gear today. Um, y'all know I'm a football fan. Obviously, I'm a CU buff. I'm also I have been spending the I guess the off season getting familiar with some of the teams where our players could end up. So I bought a lot of merch. I was out and about today in Atlanta, and I got a lot of compliments on this Falcons jacket. Y'all know I have a Raiders water bottle, and I have Dallas Cowboys merch. I have Texans merch because I know we had 16 players declaring for the NFL draft, and I do believe 14 out of 16 are either drafted or signed by the NFL or invited to camp, to rookie mini camp, and one in particular is in Canada, Mark Bassett. He's from Australia. He's in Canada. So we have one more out there, Chidozie Nwankwo. I haven't heard about where he is, but that's the person I need to follow up with. If y'all know, leave me some comments and let me know if y'all heard about Chidozie. So let's start off. We want to say some prayers up for Will Shepard. Now, Will Shepard, we know a big body receiver, balled out in the Shrine Bowl, was signed as an undrafted free agent. He would have been in Tampa with Shiloh, but he was mysteriously not on the list of undrafted rookies who were signed to be free agents because unfortunately his exam didn't go well. He failed his physical, which means that they likely found an underlying condition that he wasn't aware of, whether it was an injury, and maybe it's a new injury, because clearly when he was at CU's pro day, he was good. Remember, he had the vertical that was just about a 40. I was excited to see Will Shepard. Like I said, his passes, the catches that he makes, because he's so tall, the big body receiver. We were looking forward to see him, with these one-handed catches in the NFL. But unfortunately, as of right now, he's no longer with the team. So I don't know if something happened recently and it was caught on in the physical, or if it's just something he wasn't aware of. And I said that's similar to what happened to Bronny James, but it didn't come out of his physical for the pros. It came out when he was in college. So Will Shepard played, I believe, 4 years of ball. I think 2 or maybe 3 at Vanderbilt. And, to him to go into the pros and do well at the Shrine Bowl and ball out, at CU Pro Day, and for this to happen has to be heartbreaking. So I keep him in my prayers. So we want to make sure we say some prayers for Will Shepard, and hopefully it's something that can be remedied. I think with Bronny James, he had surgery to correct the issue. And as y'all can see, he's in the pros. So prayers up for Will Shepard, and I wish him the best so he can get back out there with his guys. So welcome everybody. Welcome. Hey Gracie, how you doing? Good evening, good evening, good evening. Kimberly, thank you, thank you, thank you. Black Bully is with the Texans. Oh, okay. All right. And I think he went to U of H. So that's good. That's good. Okay. That's really good. Okay. So thanks for that update. That's Kimberly. Thank you for the update about Chidozie. Okay, cool. All right. So Shedeur Sanders. All right. So Shedeur had a press conference today, and it was good. I like the way he answered the questions. At the end, he actually had a little joke that he told. It was funny. It really wasn't a joke, but he made light of the situation. I think a reporter asked him what he was going to buy, if he's going to buy something, and he's laughed. He said, "My signing bonus isn't that big, so I'm not buying anything." And that was kind of how they ended the press conference. One thing for sure, Shedeur Sanders, is anybody surprised that he's a standout in rookie camp? No, I don't think anybody's surprised that he's a standout. Shedeur Sanders was a Heisman candidate. So technically, Cleveland has two Heisman candidates vying for what? I don't know, the number 3 spot. I hope Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders both use this rookie minicamp as an audition because somebody got to go. People are still speculating that Kenny Pickett is the odd man out. I don't know why. I don't think it's Kenny Pickett. Yesterday, we did a poll and we said Kenny Pickett. I just don't see Shedeur and Dylan Gabriel and Joe Flacco on the roster. Like, that just makes absolutely no sense. They both were Heisman candidates, which means they both are talented. And no one team should have 2 talented rookies just sitting there. So Shedeur balled out first day, threw a deep pass for a touchdown. And, you know, of course, the media is obsessed. And I like it. I like the fact that they're obsessing. Now, some people are hating. One person could be heard on camera when Shedeur's backing out the pocket to throw a pass that he's going to get sacked. I'm like, you know, if these people have paychecks, they should be stripped of their duties because this is ridiculous. And of course, he was not sacked. Nobody was sacking anybody. But that play actually ended up, I do believe, in a complete pass or a touchdown. So it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody that Shedeur is balling out. That's what we expect of elite talent. And here lies the problem. Okay. You have people acting like because he went 5th round, that is a characterization of his talent. No, not at all. In fact, every day it's becoming more and more apparent that he's elite. It's confirming what we already knew, but it's becoming more and more apparent every day that they lied on this young man when they said he's just not that good. I think the way he's handling it shows you, it also confirms that they lied when they said he was acting entitled. So let's talk about Shedeur getting drafted and the impact of being drafted number 144. So besides the fact that there are people trying to pigeonhole him as a random 5th round draft pick who's living in his mama basement on last chance you or whatever you want to call it, he couldn't be anything further from that. And some people feel like one of the reasons he's being ostracized or mistreated or abused, if you ask me, definitely emotional abuse, is because he doesn't have a syrup sandwich and sugar water story. Y'all know what that is? That's poverty. When you eat sugar sandwiches, it's poverty. You're below the poverty line. Either y'all had food stamps or you couldn't qualify for food stamps for whatever reason. But if you're eating syrup sandwiches and sugar water, that's all you have. And unfortunately, some of these leagues like that story for Black people because it makes them feel superior because they didn't have to do that. In other words, come over here and tell us about your downtrodden story. Shedeur doesn't have that story. If he ate a syrup sandwich, it's because he wanted to. That's the reality of it, right? And I'm not knocking anybody that ate a sugar sandwich, a syrup sandwich, or whatever the hell it is, because if you did that and you had other options and that's what you wanted to do, that's one thing. But if that's all you had, and chances are, if that's all you had, your parents or your mom or your dad or whoever you live with, your grandma, went hungry. So we're definitely not making fun of poverty, but at the same time, just because you see a Black person, you should not assume that 1, they from the hood, and 2, they grew up poor. And 3, you shouldn't be upset that you meet a Black person who has more than you if you're not Black. You shouldn't be upset that Black people are wealthy and can live in your neighborhood and have the biggest house on your block. So I think those are outdated stereotypes that people use to make themselves feel better. And I do believe that's what people are doing when they say, oh, it doesn't matter where you get drafted. The hell it does. Yes, it does. It affects your money. And to have that conversation and push that false narrative as if, Tom Brady went late and Tom Brady was not an elite draft prospect. And that is exactly what I mean. Trying to console someone who was physically humiliated and is being emotionally abused and robbed in broad daylight of approximately $70 million because he's a top 5 prospect. And even if at the latest he went number 21, he would still have probably about maybe $19 million and a nice decent signing bonus of maybe 10. Either way, he got robbed. So yes, it matters where you get drafted. And two, Tom Brady is not a consolation argument for Shedeur Sanders. Tom Brady, even though he went on to have an illustrious career, was not an elite draft prospect. He was not a top round prospect. Shedeur was. And what we saw was the same thing that we likely didn't see with Deshaun Watson and that many of us saw with Lamar Jackson. So I was going to ask y'all, what does Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, and Shedeur Sanders have in common? Let me know in the comments. We know they're all elite QBs, right? We know Deshaun Watson's story. Some of y'all might know Lamar Jackson's story, and just specific to the draft. I told y'all Lamar Jackson has been colluded against 3 times, and twice is proven. And then here we are, Shedeur. So instead of comparing Shedeur Sanders to Tom Brady, who was not an elite prospect, he must have said that to make himself feel better for, in my opinion, stabbing Shedeur in the back. So whether he can say it or not, I can't. You were this young man's mentor, and you sat there while they tried to buck break him in front of 7 million people. And you said nothing. And you know what? Maybe because you are a minority owner and they brought you in to help with talent for quarterbacks, maybe they overruled you when you said you wanted Shedeur, or maybe you never said it. But the one thing you should have did, instead of texting him and telling him it's okay because I went late and he's elite and you were not, is say, man, I'm sorry. There was nothing I could do. I would have more respect for Tom Brady if he was just honest. Yes, they brought me in to be the quarterbacks, to give them guidance on strategy for the quarterbacks. But I was overruled. And to me, Tom Brady sitting quiet further proves that people were instructed to not draft him. What Boomer Esiason said, it actually becomes more and more of a reality that collusion is what took place. I don't even think we're doubting that anymore. But now you get to see, what did I say? Everyday clarity. Time brings clarity. And every day we get to see that everybody who was quiet chose to remain quiet. And then number 47 comes in. So miss me with it's okay that Shedeur was robbed in broad daylight and publicly humiliated because he's black. Why did it happen to Lamar Jackson? Lamar Jackson was a Heisman winner. And we know the story about his draft, that they wanted to switch him to wide receiver before when the combine was taking place. And he didn't want to work out as a wide receiver. So I guess in their mind, he's defiant too. And then there's Deshaun Watson. Now, since we saw, silence is also an action. Since we saw 32 teams be silent and allow Shedeur to be pushed down round after round after round, because he was going on to undrafted free agency, understand that. They sent out a waiver wire making a joke about him. They were cutting him from somewhere. And if we know that he wasn't to be drafted, then we know he was going to be cut from free agency. So he was going to be a free agent. But it became unbearable, so somebody had to step up. And yes, it was an unlikely ally, but that's what it was. That's what it was. But will that be enough to hold the NFL accountable so they can stop with the discriminatory practices against black quarterbacks in the NFL draft? That's where lawsuits come in at. So Shedeur Sanders, Heisman winner, on the same team with another Heisman winner. It does matter that he was forced down. He is elite day one talent. Day one of the draft is the first round. I don't care if he would have went 32. It would have been just as bad as Lamar going 32. But the point is, he was elite day one talent. That's the group he belonged with. And what was the impact of pushing him down to 144. Oh, he's not elite, so you trashing his reputation like you did Deshaun Watson's. Shedeur did absolutely nothing wrong. Shedeur, what's his name? Deshaun Watson settled 22 or 23 or 24 civil lawsuits for misconduct. And although it looks like the league gave him the money back in the form of a $230 million guaranteed contract when he got to Cleveland, maybe they were forced to take him too. Shedeur did nothing wrong. So how much should his fully guaranteed contract be? $500 million? Because while it's clear he was robbed in broad daylight, he was also publicly humiliated. He was also, it was set up, and it has happened before. The last person we remember being publicly humiliated is who? Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's contract, although it wasn't fully guaranteed, is about $230 to $250 million. And when it was time for Lamar Jackson and free agency, where other teams could pick up the MVP, Heisman winner, he was a unanimous MVP after they said he should have switched to wide receiver, and they made fun of his mental aptitude test results. He was a unanimous MVP, and still all 32 teams sat silent, and nobody wanted to take the MVP. Collusion. It's documented. What we saw with Lamar Jackson at the draft and in free agency is exactly what happened to Shedeur Sanders. Collusion. Tried to embarrass him. Because why? He made a decision. Lamar Jackson just didn't want to be forced away from playing his childhood dream of quarterback. Was he wrong? No. No. If you go to any corporate public speaking event where they bring in people to speak at conferences, you think they meek and shallow? You think that they talking about what they maybe could have, would have, should have done? No, they have power. They have influence. They bring these people in to tell their stories on how they got to the top, which is where they want to get their employees. So Shedeur Sanders, in my opinion, was just being a motivational speaker. He believed that there were teams that wanted to win. See, that's the mistake all of us have made. We're all guilty of that. We're all guilty of that. In fact, that's what President Trump pointed out. Anybody that wants to win should pick him immediately. What did Stephen A say? The draft is not about talent. If the draft is not about talent, the NFL is not about winning. That's the mistake that we all made. Is that a mistake Shedeur made? No, it shouldn't be. Because if you think about it, if you're not interested in winning, why do you need all these 30 for 30 meetings? Why you need the combine at all? Why you need the pro day? Why does it matter who you invite or not? If you just putting on a pageant, then what do you need all of this for? Why do you need 200,000 people to come watch people get drafted if it's just a pageant? Shedeur did nothing wrong. To say, I want to go to a team that wants to win. He is a change maker. He is a transformative QB. But clearly, there were some people that took offense to him wanting to be a transformative QB. Isn't that what he's been since high school? So who's at fault here? Because scouts have gone to every game. The New York Giants were at every single game, scouting Shedeur Sanders, knowing they weren't never going to take him. They were just playing along, just like Cleveland. I think we all know Cleveland got forced into it. But what's happening at camp? The shining star is doing what the shining star is expected to do. Shine. The only people that will be surprised are going to be the same people after he get his $500 million guaranteed contract for collusion, discrimination, and I don't know, defamation. I owe Shedeur Sanders an apology. Keep your apologies, because you are trying to inflict mental anguish onto another person because you think you can. Luckily, we don't see it getting to him. But does that make it okay? No, it does not. So today, I posted a picture of, I guess it's like a meme or something from when the Color Purple, a movie that came out. And I posted an image of the character playing Celie when she's doing her hands like this. And she's like, until you do right by me, nothing you do, will come to pass that will be good for you. I've seen that meme with Colin Kaepernick in it. And I could have just put Shedeur's face on it. Because that's what we are. Until you do right by me. Is Cleveland doing right by Shedeur? No. There's absolutely no reason for Shedeur Sanders to be a top 3 draft pick, first round draft pick out here competing for what? It was already said that Jackson Dart was supposedly going to be buried to the back of the depth chart because they want him to learn. Shedeur Sanders has who you learning from? Cam Ward is number 1. We know Shedeur and Cam Ward are the same QB. 98%, 99% the same QB. There's nothing that justifies what is happening in Cleveland. If Cam can have his number 1 and Warren Moon can come unretire it, and Travis can have his number, guess what other elite QB should have his 2, if that's what he wants. He was asked by a reporter, why did he take it? He didn't have an option. They gave it to him. And maybe, just maybe, it's a slick way because his father wore 2 for them to continue to try to separate him from Coach Prime. We don't want you to be like that. Coach Prime wore number 2. And that's none of their business. I watched video today of Coach Prime. Essentially, I watched a video today of Coach Prime when Shiloh was in the hospital. And Shiloh had a broken forearm. And Coach Prime was just, kissing on him and rubbing his forehead. Something you see loving parents do. And we were talking about how that was a beautiful sight. And I said, and they want to say he's a helicopter parent. And we talked about how you generally don't see these images of Black fathers. He's at Shiloh's bedside. Shiloh's trying to come out of anesthesia, from under anesthesia. And he's telling Coach Prime, I want to get back out there next week. Coach Prime, I can't throw you back out there like that. He wanted to get back out there. And his speed was needed, but he did need more time to heal. But Coach Prime was like, I can't throw you back out there like that. And he was rubbing something off his forehead, fixing his hair. Being a loving father. So they're trying to separate Shedeur from his father by tearing down his own father. For what? But it's okay for their fathers to be ever present because it seems to me that the Mannings run the New York Giants. And not Eli or Peyton, Archie Manning. And it would not surprise me if that old misconnection is alive and well, because that's what Archie Manning wanted. Because who's supposed to be coming up next? Right, his grandson, which is why they didn't pick anybody with the number 2 or the number 3 pick. And I get it. You didn't want a QB with the number 3 pick. You want to save that spot for your grandson who said he's going to stay at UT 1 more year. So you need that spot that could be occupied by a quarterback for 4 years. You need that spot vacant. You're going to hold that spot. I have absolutely no problem with that. What I do have a problem with is because that's what you want to do, you're going to tear down another man. And you thought it was okay. If he was white, you would have never tore Shedeur down like that. You probably would have pulled his agent, his daddy, or anybody else to the side and said, look, we want to get you, but we want to save this spot. So if we take you right now, we're going to have to move you later on. So we don't want to do that to you. But they thought it was okay and that Shedeur was dispensable. In what world? Because had the NFL gone to Shedeur on or right around February 20th and told Shedeur and Coach Prime and anybody else who have decision-making abilities that they didn't want, the NFL doesn't want quarterbacks like Shedeur Sanders, Shedeur might already be in Canada. And see, maybe they didn't tell us that. Maybe they didn't repeat it 100 times a day, because then he would just go to Canada and we would go with him. He was Shedeur Sanders' most popular person in the NFL draft in 2025. And that's the person they sought to try to tear down. It seemed like they were in their feelings like they were when Deshaun Watson asked for a trade. And what did they do to Deshaun Watson? They launched a smear campaign. And even if it didn't have the civil suits that came with it, it should have never happened anyway, because if somebody comes to you and asks for a trade, it's yes or no. You don't get upset because they have the audacity to make a decision because you think they're inferior. That's your problem. That's a you problem if you think Deshaun Watson was inferior to you, that he should have never asked for a trade. So you was going to make it so that he never asked for anything else ever again. Well, he didn't have to ask for $230 million. Chances are, because why? He wasn't the only one. But we didn't hear about that. But that $230 million fully guaranteed tells us there's more to the story. Maybe somebody ought to look into it. Find out what kind of collusion took place there, because that is definitely the favorite crime. And because Lamar Jackson is still in the league, the collusion just continues. They're like, oh, he's not going nowhere. These people have to be held accountable. That's what this lawsuit is about. There's no accountability. We know there's no remorse, but there's definitely no accountability. So do we expect them to start doing right by Shedeur? Did they do right by him when he got to Cleveland? No. They know who told them you better draft him, but they still with the foolishness. So Tom Brady's low draft round prospect is not the same as Shedeur Sanders being a high draft prospect and forced down at all. So Coach Prime posted the other day that maybe we should look at this from the perspective of God's love and protection for Shedeur. And I totally agree. I totally agree. If he wanted you to have it, you would have had it. Because one thing we did see, we saw people that believe God kicked that door open and got him in the league. For sure. Despite the hurdles. But that's still not enough to make them straighten up and fly right. But it's easier said than done. And under the post, it was said, somebody responded to the post, and I don't know who it was, but I think he or she said that's easier said than done. Because here's the thing, in order to see it the way Coach Prime is saying we should see it, you have to have an intimate relationship with Christ. You have to already know under no uncertain terms. You have to know instantly when something like this happens, when you realize that they try to block you from something. You have to instantly know, oh, God trying to protect me from something. Everybody can't see it like that. And honestly, just because God don't want him there because it wouldn't have been good for him doesn't mean the public humiliation, picking his pockets of $70 million, trying to, actually defaming his character, a smear campaign like they did with Deshaun Watson. Public humiliation like they did with Lamar Jackson. It doesn't mean it's okay just because Cleveland wasn't the right spot. Maybe Cleveland wasn't the right spot, but it could have been somewhere else. You're not going to tell me that everybody, because they chose to be quiet, wanted to be quiet. If Tom Brady couldn't say anything, it's because they have a pecking order. And just like Deshaun Watson had the audacity to ask for a trade, and Lamar Jackson had the audacity to want to be a quarterback instead of a wide receiver, and Shedeur had the audacity to want to be the elite transformative quarterback that we know him to be. I wonder what happens when owners have the audacity to break rank. I can't imagine. I can't imagine. So you got to go along with the foolishness. We know Tom Brady is Shedeur's mentor. We know Jerry Jones, no Coach Prime. And they sacrificed all of it because what they wanted was better in their mind, was more important than decency, the brand. The brand is sullied. You can't look at the NFL the same ever again. You know what it is now. You know exactly what it is. Because a lot of people don't know how Deshaun Watson got a $230 million contract. A lot of people don't know why Lamar Jackson went number 32. But we know it wasn't right. We know they were playing in his face. So they went extreme with it with Shedeur, and they was gonna push him all the way to undrafted free agency. What happened to Shedeur has happened before. It was just the most extreme because of what was at stake. So let's talk about the New Orleans Saints. So Derek Carr has announced his retirement. How convenient. Because when the Saints and Shedeur were in the same conversation, people were like, oh, Shedeur will be QB2. No. There are people who do not want to accept the fact that Shedeur is an elite QB1, which is him shining in Cleveland is not surprising. There are people that are picking apart some lady out here with doctor in the title. And who knows what kind of doctor she is other than foolishness, is like, he threw a wobbly ball. I'm like, y'all really working overtime, huh? Even though you saw he still got in the league, you still with the foolishness. Okay. I wonder what kind of patience she has. I wonder how they feel about her behavior towards a 23-year-old that was already publicly humiliated and she trying to keep it up. See, people like that start crying when they lose their livelihood, but they have no problem trying to destroy Shedeur Sanders' livelihood and make Tom Brady the consolation prize when Tom Brady was not an elite prospect. Shedeur Sanders was not only an elite prospect, a first-round prospect. He's the best QB in the draft. And why wouldn't you want the best QB in the draft? The same reason you don't want to win. You have abandoned winning for preference because the optics of having majority of your starting quarterbacks, your QB1s, be black on 17 of 32 teams. And with Jalen Milroe, 18 of 32 teams, almost assures that when you go to the AFC and NFC next year, who is it going to be? And if you keep trying to get people to lie for you and drop footballs for you, somebody going to tell the truth eventually. So while I like and understand exactly what Coach Prime is saying here, hindsight is 2020. I do believe that the door was closed because Cleveland is that ever troubled team. And I was thinking about this. I say it's crazy to me how the NFL would rather destroy an elite QB like Shedeur Sanders and keep him out of the top spots rather than win with him. Because some people in their feelings that their organization is trash. Why you don't fix your organization? Why doesn't the NFL hold these lousy, persistently losing franchises accountable? If you can gang up on Shedeur Sanders and try to force him into free agency, it's not far-fetched that you ganged up on Deshaun Watson because he asked for a trade. See, this is what happens when you do wrong. All your dirt come out. All your dirt come out. It's not far-fetched to believe that because you ganged up, you showed us in front of 7 million people. See, what they did to Lamar Jackson was behind closed doors. They were colluding behind closed doors with Deshaun Watson and Lamar Jackson. But see, they wanted to be bold with it. In front of 7 million people invited us to watch the public humiliation, which was premeditated, which was staged, which they were delighted in carrying out. And now they somewhere hiding because crickets. Because they were called out by the president of the United States, who, if he wanted to, the Justice Department could be in there raiding every device out there. There are 2,000 people that could be interviewed about the email that went out. There are people that can be interviewed about the anonymous sources on draft day that ran around to Pittsburgh and to other teams when it was time for Pittsburgh to make their selection. Those people can be made to be identified. They had cameras in the building. It's not hard. But the longer it goes where it seems like there's going to be no accountability, when in fact, they just didn't recognize the accountability. It's called kicking the door in, and Shedeur Sanders get drafted to a team that's upset that they had to take him. They thought they got away with luring him in by building him up and making him think that he could go to Cleveland. And then the owner, being performative, thought he could snatch it out from Shedeur Sanders. And they thought they could do a 1-2 punch between the Giants and Cleveland and try to emotionally abuse the fame and sully his reputation. And none of that worked. He still got drafted. And Cleveland still with the foolishness. If anything, they should have gave him his number. The one thing they don't want to do is admit that he's elite, because I look stupid. Why didn't you draft him initially? Why did you get Dylan Gabriel at all? Why do you have 2 Heisman candidates on your roster at 3 and 4? Why did you draft Shedeur Sanders 144? Why did you use 2 5th-round draft picks to get a 5th-round draft pick? Why you didn't get Travis Hunter? Why you didn't get Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders? You had 11 picks. Why you didn't set your team up for success? Why are you going with Joe Flacco, who brings in the nostalgia of what it used to be? Because that's where you want to be, stuck in the past. And your behavior towards Shedeur Sanders and Lamar Jackson and C.J. Stroud and possibly Deshaun Watson tells that. Because if Deshaun Watson thought he could walk into the front office and ask for a trade, just like Shedeur Sanders thought he was getting drafted early on, Deshaun Watson thought he had that type of relationship with the front office. And you see what happened. Now, there are people that are like, what he did was wrong. And he wasn't the only one. So let's keep talking. Let's keep talking. Because you don't settle 23, 24 civil lawsuits for misconduct and get a fully $230 million guarantee after you got the trade that you asked for the year before. So there's something there. And I think it starts with, how dare you ask me for a trade? I'm going to teach you not to ask me for nothing, because you don't get to make no decisions. Because why? The NFL believes that what? Black NFL players, therefore black people, are inferior to who? White NFL players and white people. Their hiring practices speak to it. They don't even promote from within. How many actual NFL players are in these front offices? Considering we know black NFL players make the majority, it should be the majority if we promote from within. But they rather go outside and hire anybody else than the people that's making them money on the field, because maybe they think they belong on the field or in it. Maybe it makes them feel good to watch them on a field laboring. Until Cleveland does right by Shedeur, we're going to be talking. We're going to point out the fact that they have been incompetent at the QB position since 1999. That they have destroyed and stifled quarterbacks' careers, and we don't want that to happen to Shedeur. So I do believe Coach Prime is right, but it is not that easy to get over. You have to have already been through something so devastating that God showed up at 4 a.m. and say, I got you. That way, when something like this happens, something painful and embarrassing that people ordered and orchestrated to happen to you, that you don't lose it. We talked about the young mind. Frontal lobe under the age of 25 is not fully developed. He didn't even lose it. We didn't even see him have a fit. All he said was, when young Dolph's son asked him, why they didn't draft you? Do they not think you're good? He said, they don't think I'm good. So he knew he had to prove to himself who he is, so he doesn't start to believe the fallacy that they put out there, because that's what they want. They want him to come big, but he didn't have to, because God kicked the door in. And they still with the foolishness. So there's going to be more to come. So I don't want to hear anything else about Tom Brady and where he got drafted. That has nothing to do with Shedeur. Tom Brady was not an elite draft prospect. Shedeur Sanders was. Shedeur Sanders was projected first round. You can predict, you can look at the contracts. That's about $70 million. If you want to put him at the number 2 spot, fine. If you want to put him at the 21st spot, that's about $17 to $18 million plus a hefty $10 million signing bonus on average. So he's missing his money. And this is not going anywhere till he get it. It's not okay what happened. I don't care if they move on and never talk about it again. It's not okay. And karma has no expiration date. The NFL brand is sullied. You know why I'm wearing this jacket today? To remind you I'm an NFL fan. And I don't like what happened. So when the person filed the lawsuit, they said they were a Colorado fan. Well, I'm a Colorado and an NFL fan. See? And I don't like what I saw. I don't appreciate being lured to a celebratory event where we learn where our favorite college players are going in the NFL so we can buy their jerseys, only to be traumatized by their BS, their politics, their personal bias. That has no place in the NFL draft. If you want to talk behind closed doors about your players and you think that they inferior to whites, okay, that's between you and the people that let you keep that secret. But the moment you want to sit down and start trying to emotionally abuse a young man that, in our opinion, is a model of Black excellence, and we in your fan base, we're going to have something to say. And we're going to keep saying it. The brand is sullied. It's not what anybody thought. I don't even know how anybody that really cares about Shedeur, this situation, or common decency could want to buy $5,000 tickets and watch what? A scripted event? People been saying the NFL was rigged for years, and they showed us all with the draft. It ain't about talent. It's not about winning. So maybe it is. So earlier, I posted. I told y'all, I was like, I'm going to look up and see how far Atlanta is from Jacksonville, because every day I say my prayer, God, dear God, please let Shedeur Sanders get traded to Jacksonville Jaguars expeditiously. Because until Cleveland does right, that's the prayer. That's the prayer. That's right. They don't deserve Shedeur Sanders. The first time or the second time, apparently. When they were out chasing him, when they claimed they wanted a QB, until they remembered they had Deshaun Watson contract. It is not a coincidence that Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders are involved with the same team. It's not a coincidence that after something despicable took place, they ended up on the same team. It's not a coincidence that they both were sent there. They likely both were forced there. And Shedeur's situation and him being in Cleveland is basically telling us that something is missing. There's more to the story with Deshaun Watson. Because understand, if he had to pay $100 million to settle these cases, the league gave him $230 million fully guaranteed, which covered the settlements and then some. There's more to the story. And as long as Shedeur Sanders is in Cleveland, where Deshaun Watson is in Cleveland, after they were both forced to Cleveland, somebody gonna start talking. Somebody gonna start talking. Now, how did you get this contract? So it sounds like collusion and a cover-up. Exactly what we saw with Lamar Jackson. Exactly what we saw with Shedeur Sanders. When it came to Lamar Jackson, I told y'all, even before this draft, I said they trying to spin how they try to publicly humiliate Lamar Jackson. And the reason why they sent the little guy with the false narratives to Mike Tomlin, who's a Black coach, because Mike Tomlin likes Shedeur. And they wanted to, in front of Mike Tomlin's bosses, put it out there about Shedeur, which basically is threatening Mike Tomlin's job. I'm pretty sure that's illegal. I'm pretty sure trying to strong arm Black coaches and GMs into staying away from Black quarterbacks is some kind of crime. I'm going to have to think about it. I'm probably going to look it up. Why did you need to lie to Mike Tomlin in front of his bosses about Shedeur? Because you wanted to make sure Shedeur didn't become QB1, but not because he's Coach Prime's son. That's not it. And not because he went to Colorado, because you got everybody from Colorado after you got Shedeur. So what was it? The same reason he was locked out of the first round the morning of the draft. So he doesn't become QB1. So Derek Carr has retired. If he was going to announce that retirement, Shedeur would be QB1 if he went to the Saints. Secondly, even if he didn't retire, they were already planning to move him out the way with a year-long injury. So they had their own politics happening in New Orleans. Tilma Fertitta ends up the owner of the Saints within the next year or two. Understand that was always part of the goal. So we saw from the draft who runs the NFL. We saw it. Hands down. People want to say Shedeur wasn't drafted until a few rounds later because y'all was trying to figure out where he was going. To be a fly on the wall with those conversations, I don't care if it happened purely via text, but I know it wasn't. So the brand is solid. We know what it is. All we can do is cheer for our faves to be happy. I was happy when I saw Shedeur smiling today when he was laughing and he was asked about buying something and he said, "Oh, my signing bonus is too low for me to be buying anything." The fact that he could make light of that situation tells you he's far from entitled. Every day there is further confirmation that they lied and defamed him to keep him out the top spot. That's what they did. It's not a, "Oh, I'm sorry." No, you knew exactly what you were doing. You only defamed him so you could try to justify the public humiliation, but we didn't buy it. I think they forgot who their fan base is. I think they forgot that blacks and Hispanics are the majority of the fan bases. Put them two together. I think they forgot that their white fan base is dwindling. Maybe that's what the desperation was, to make sure that the majority of the starters aren't black. I mean, in 1934, if they banned black players from the NFL because random white people didn't have jobs, because it wouldn't look good for black people to be making money in the NFL while random white people was just at the bus stop with no job. How do we know that the reason they are fighting black people, quarterbacks, QB1s, from becoming the majority of 17 to 18 of 32 teams this year was for the same reason? What about dwindling fan base of white people gonna say when they realize that every other QB is black and leading the teams, and those are the teams that's going forward are going to end up in the AFC and NFC championship, because we ain't gonna be able to rig it every year. And the reason why you know that that's where it's headed is because in 2024 there were top three QBs in the first round. In 2025, there was supposed to be top three elite black QBs in the first round: Cam, Shedeur, and Jalen Milroe. They tried to say, "We don't want Shedeur because he's a pocket passer. So why didn't you draft Jalen Milroe?" Because he's a dual threat that runs a 4.37 and is compared to Lamar Jackson. So you don't like dual threats, or you don't like pocket passers, or you don't want any more elite black QBs, because you know, even if you put them second on the depth chart, they're going to end up in the top spot, because that's what happened with Jalen Hurts. So you went breathing down Mike Tomlin's neck because you remember Isaac Newsom on his way out drafted Lamar Jackson, and you still taking it out on Lamar Jackson. So you went running around with the false narrative and the entitled trope and to Mike Tomlin right before it was time for him to pick in front of his boss, so he could feel like you threatening him, because you were. You trying to strong arm him so he wouldn't pick Shedeur, possibly on his way out. He probably realized they trying to force Aaron Rodgers on me. They want Shedeur to be number 2 behind Aaron Rodgers. Mike Tomlin even said it. Shedeur would be number 4 on the depth chart, number 2 behind Aaron Rodgers, and he too good for that. When Mike Tomlin was speaking in front of his GM about Shedeur, he had all glowing rave reviews about Shedeur. The GM looked like he was going to internally combust, like he was scared for his job because Mike Tomlin wasn't with the foolishness and lying like Andrew Berry was. And guess who's going to get fired first? No good comes of trying to harm a young man who just wants to play football because you worried about having 17 or 18 black QB1s. So it's not okay. Tom Brady's story is apples to oranges and it doesn't compare. So please stop with it. Cleveland, until you do right by Shedeur, you're going to feel the wrath. And yes, dear God, please allow Shedeur Sanders to be traded to the Jacksonville Jaguars, which is 4 hours and 56 minutes from Atlanta. So it is not out of the question. It probably is not going to happen this year. The story that I heard is that it's next year. So we're going to play this whole game the whole way through. Cleveland don't even want to capitalize on it. They just want to keep on with the public humiliation. But I don't know if y'all noticed. The NFL tried the same thing during the draft with all of the negativity about Shedeur, to the point that Bucky Brooks told Shedeur on the record, on camera, at the Shrine Bowl, well, you know, we got to do this for clicks. He said, I know my dad told me this what comes with it. That's why having your dad, who has been through this process, is so important. Maybe they didn't want him to have guidance because they wanted him to be negatively impacted by this. Because now they see, first day of minicamp, he's still shining. What we gonna do? I would suggest you leave him alone. But arrogant people persist. So, as you can see, Jacksonville is not that far from Atlanta. Let's see if I can. All right. So the guys that graduated. Now, I'm not saying that this is everybody, but you see Travis in the middle. I know Amari McNeil, I believe, is over here to the left. And there's some other guys here. So this is actually really good. There was a time where black football players didn't graduate. If they didn't go to the league, they just went on to somewhere else. And these guys are graduating. So this is a testament to Coach Prime's excellence as a coach and driving home, you know, that these guys have to prepare for the future without football. Now, me personally, I want there to be a league that Coach Prime starts. I said if the NFL cuts Shedeur, is crazy enough to waive him and nobody picks him up, he's likely going to end up in Canada because he was already on their negotiation list. I knew that that was not an accident. Now, the NFL sees all of the attention Shedeur is getting, but they knew he had that before, and still, before the combine, didn't want quarterbacks like Shedeur, because eventually people will realize what I have been telling you over and over and over. This is not about Coach Prime. This is not about Colorado and Shedeur's jersey. This is not about primetime son. This is about maintaining the racial hierarchy at QB1. And for that to be the reason they defamed, slandered, emotionally abused, publicly humiliated this young man, is why $100 million is not enough. Because they won't stop. It's not new, just extreme. So congratulations to the guys from CU. Shout out to Coach Prime for not only getting 14 of 16 players in the NFL in terms of opportunities. Everybody has to try out, which brings us to the conversation about these contracts that we're hearing that people have. Shiloh signed for $2 million plus. Cam Stillman Craig signed for $2 million plus. Now, this is where y'all get to weigh in with y'all's expertise, because from what I was told, these guys have to make it. And if they don't make the 53-man roster, do they not get this money? If anybody knows, let me know. That's what I want to try to understand. If the guys don't make the 53-man roster, like Shiloh or Cam Stillman Craig, who have the $2+ million contracts for 3 years, do they not get this money? Does anybody know? That's what I believe, which makes me ask, why do they do it that way? Because it's almost like it's a Band-Aid. It gives them something to work towards. But at the same time, these players don't get paid to try out. These guys are footing the bill themselves, if not their agency is. And I would imagine if I have an agent and he's footing the bill from now, May until the first game, if I don't make it that 53-man roster, I'm likely going to have to pay that money back unless it's a tax write-off for the agency. So there's a lot here that I want us to talk about in terms of the impact for the guys to try out. So let me check the comments and see what people are saying. Crowley, how you doing, Crowley? Good evening, good evening. Looks like all of our players had good 2 days of camp. Yep. I saw Jimmy Horn Jr. I didn't know he had a 30 for 30 private visit with Carolina. He said he wanted to go there. So I'm happy he ended up somewhere that he wanted to go. He was interviewed, about being in Charlotte. He said he hadn't had a chance to get out. So Jimmy's doing good. I think he's the only one in Carolina. So we're going to have to pay attention. The schedule comes out May 14th. So we'll take a look at, right now we can see who they play. But on the 14th, we can do like what we did with CU. Get the schedules, look at who's where, try to figure out who plays who, what key games we want to focus on, and go from there. Isaiah said, scripture like a pro from his interview. Yep, Shedeur was like a pro. Definitely, yeah, he in every aspect. Top elite QB, elite talent, media trained. When they said Shedeur was the I guess like the most NFL ready QB, he was. He really was. I said that's the person you really want managing your team. Managing, the roster and when things go bad, being a QB that actually stays in the game. So yes, he did, Isaiah. Yes, he did. He interviewed like a pro. Skip Bayless called out Tom Brady with no chaser. Whoa. You know what? I thought I saw that. I'm gonna have to go back and look again. Unless he did it twice. I thought I heard the first time that he said Tom Brady set Shedeur up. I agree. Do y'all, you know what? I know Shedeur is forgiven. I know Shedeur is forgiven. You could already see Coach Prime is like, let it go, let it go, let it go. You where God wants you to be. Don't worry about that lost opportunity. But that is not easy to do because even if you push past it, you push past it understanding it wasn't right. And if it wasn't right, I can forgive you, but I don't have to associate with you. I can forgive you, but I should never trust you again. See, that's the part that's not being talked about. Sure, we can all move on, but we're not going to forget what happened. You don't just go back and start trusting people like that. You don't have to associate with them. You can be cordial and keep it pushing. When they come in the room, you got a buffer, you hit the exit. I'm not saying that's what he should do. I'm saying in situations like this, where you are betrayed at the highest level by people you've been in exclusive rooms with, you and your father, when you find out that it's just because they didn't want 17 or 18 black starting quarterbacks, that's going to upset him when he realizes that that's what it is, that it has nothing to do with the fact that he's not good. And I love the fact that people asked him, about his mindset. He said, I'm not working out from the mindset of proving anything to them. I'm working out to prove to myself. And that's what you have to do when people are trying to tear you down. Because if you try to prove anything to them, they got you. Because you're never going to be good enough for people that don't like you. And I'm glad he understands that. I'm glad he's not trying to prove anything to them. It's what I said. Go out there and be your best for God every day. Don't even worry about them. If God opened the door for you to be here, that's where you belong until he closes it. And when he does, a window was already opening and you're going to realize it. You're going to realize it. Do I hope the window is Jacksonville? Yes. It said also Tom Brady wasn't drafted to a team that already had a QB. Right. That's what I'm saying. This situation is not apples to apples. Tom Brady has nothing to do with this. And thank you for pointing it out. Tom Brady probably wasn't number 4 on the back of the depth chart, but even if he was, why would he be there with somebody that just came in? This makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. That's how you know it was forced. And now it makes you wonder if Deshaun Watson was forced and why. Because maybe some of the other people that were involved aren't just players. Or maybe you was going to blow up an entire team. So Deanna Taylor, yes, you're right. Tom Brady was not. He was not elite, and he was not on a team with another QB that came in the same year. Somebody got to go. We know somebody got to go. Yes, people think it's Pickett, but I don't know why you have two rookie QBs. To me, it's Shedeur. Just the way that they were treating him, not being welcoming, being condescending, putting him behind Dylan Gabriel, giving him a 12 instead of a 2. It's like this is a pit stop. We had to take you, but they should have never treated him like that. They treat him like they didn't know him, but then at the same time, they have uttered out of their mouths multiple times from multiple people within the organization. We interviewed with him extensively. So don't treat him like this. Don't act like you don't know him. Don't act like you don't know he's human. That's why I don't like Cleveland at all. Yeah, there are a lot of people that think all black people are impoverished. I don't even know why you would think that. You actually know wealthy black people and you still think that. Like that's crazy. That's crazy to think that all black people are poor. The president of the United States was black and wealthy. Like what? The black there's a list of black billionaires out here. Jay-Z is a black billionaire. So is a tech giant, Robert Smith. Like there's a lot of people out here. When you look at social media, and I know the algorithm tends to silo people. So, like, if you white, they're gonna show you some white content. If you start clicking on black content, they're gonna show you black content. And I think sometimes when we do trends, is where I see it the most. Like when they doing dances, and I'm looking at black people in their houses. They are nice, really nice. And I was thinking, I wonder if white people see this because I know how it goes. Because to me, if a black person lives on your street, you shouldn't rush over to ask them what they do as if they are an anomaly. But it tells you that wherever they work, their bosses are not black. That's what it tells you. So that might be why they come and ask you, what do you do? Don't worry about it. Imagine a bunch of men owning teams laughing. We need to build our own league. Right. That I'm telling you, to me, that's the message. That is the message. That's what need to be worked on. Y'all know Miss Taisha that plans everything. She had planned all the games for CU. And she planned Shedeur's party, Travis, and his fiance's wedding, which is coming up, by the way, in about 2 weeks. And she plans all of these things. And I said it. I said, to me, Coach Prime has it. All he has to do is this. For one, the prime effect that he sprinkled at Jackson State and CU tells you why he should have his own league. It will be successful. We're all going to watch. And we're going to pay good money to do it. Look at how many people pay good money to follow CU from game to game. Or I went to the Alamo Bowl, 17 hours from Atlanta to San Antonio. I mean, of course, I broke up the trip, but the point is I made it there and back because I really wanted to go. That's what we do when it comes to Coach Prime. And if it's been done with Jackson State and it's been done at CU, that should tell him that you have the very diverse audience that will follow you. And Mama T, Miss Taisha, if she was, I guess you could say like director of operations or anything close to it, she does logistics. Everything she plans, she can whip up a schedule in terms of stadiums, have them on lock. She should be his chief operating officer because that's what she did for CU. She planned everything to and from the games, the hotels. Did you think she can't do it for 10 games for 2 teams? Yeah. So he already has that. Bucky. Y'all know Bucky's role. I don't even have to tell you. I don't even need these big box channels that could possibly freeze them out. I just need you to stream these games. Advertisers will show up. Shedeur, $6 million valuation. Major advertisers. Travis Hunter, $6 million valuation. Major advertisers. So why continuously enrich them to discriminate against you? There are people that probably like, well, I don't want to do the work to have my own league. It's gonna be a minute before they could make $40 and $50 million. Is it worth it to be discriminated against? And it ain't guaranteed. Let's be clear about that. All of these contracts that they putting out, which makes it seem good, that money is not going to their bank account right now, and it's not guaranteed. And I gotta try out to get it first. I have to invest blood, sweat, and tears in somebody else's money, or hopefully my NIL, to try to make it, to try to even make it that far. And if I'm living in Tampa, I'm assuming they paying for housing, because you got to pay for your own housing. The money's not guaranteed. It's a game. Oh, so-and-so signed for a $2 million contract. You got to make the team first. Nobody gets paid until the game check. So this investment could just be all performative. That's why I'm like, we'll see who make the roster. That's exactly what I said. And all of those combine invites that went to Alabama, I was like, we're going to see who go in the first round from Alabama to see what's going on with these combine invites. And they did not have a lot of first round picks. That makes the school look good. That helps Alabama's recruiting. And snubbing Colorado when we got 16 people in the draft, clearly we should have at least had at minimum 8 combine invites. But Colorado couldn't have more than the rest of the Big 12 people. Or maybe because the Big 12 had their own pro day, they wasn't worried about it. But if you have 14 people from one school in there and they only had 3 combine invites, come on now. Again, this is about, well, I don't want to give it to Colorado because then that might help Coach Prime. Then, if Colorado get 14 people on rosters, then that's going to help their recruiting. So that's why we're going to see who make the roster. I think at this point, we should always look for the performance from these people, because that's what they did to reel Shedeur in. Oh, Cleveland scheduled a 30 for 30 with Shedeur Sanders right after the combine. They were the first team. We met with Shedeur extensively. And why? You knew you had Deshaun Watson contract. You played in his face, and you still playing in his face. Cleveland, until you do right by Shedeur. I mean that. I'm from Louisiana. I know nothing to voodoo, but hey, I still believe until you do right by Shedeur Sanders, nothing you will do will come to pass. Call it a curse. T. Rose, it said they knew the world was watching. Yes, they reeled him in and they reeled us in too. You are so right, T. Rose. It said they saw how the fans felt about it and had to do something to save. To save the shield. Let's see. I hear what I think. I think legal from somewhere popped up. All companies have legal, right? And I think that after Trump, because see, remember, the prank was the first round, right? Or was it the second round? That's the second day. So if that was day 2, and then later on, Trump was day 3, maybe, because it was the 5th round. I think the two events, and I don't know if y'all know, but that prank was on CNN and every other major network. It wasn't just social media. It hit the major networks. I watched it on CNN. I was like, God, this made it to CNN. And then the fact that who was the problem when the lies started rolling out, cover up, collusion and cover up. That's just what they do. And that's why 100 million is not enough. This is not new. It was extreme, and the punishment needs to fit the crime. If you ask me, between Cleveland and the Giants, somebody need to be forced to sell their team. Just like Donald Sterling was caught on audio. Doing what? Being what? Okay. So, see these 2 right here? Somebody got to go. Because there's no way you can get away with luring someone to public humiliation and luring us to watch it, and we just go back to normal life. It's not normal. It's really not. There are even reporters saying Shedeur is not, you're not day 3 talent. No, he's not. That becomes apparent every day. I don't even look at it as a QB competition. For what? What the hell are we competing for? Somebody leaving. So who is it gonna be? You gonna make Shedeur and Dylan Gabriel, 2 Heisman candidates, compete for the 3rd and 4th spots? That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. Why the other 2 somewhere safe? It's not a competition. It's not a competition. They don't even want Shedeur to get the spotlight. It's not a competition. There are people trying to figure out if they need to change the plan that they had. And what was that? When his phone number went out on a waiver wire, went out with a waiver wire attached to an email with nothing but his phone number to 2,000 people, and it ended up in the hands of an unidentified prank caller from Ole Miss who has connections to the New York Giants. I don't think Shedeur going to be on the team. They just got to figure out how to do it, because you can't go and put him on a waiver wire now, because we all know that you had him on a waiver wire when he didn't even work there, which means if you colluded to keep him from getting drafted, you knew he was not getting drafted. And if you put him on with waiver wires before he started working there with his phone number, and 2,000 people get it, and it ends up with a humiliating plot and embarrassing situation, that was always the plan. I just needed a way to get his number out. No coincidence, only one person used it. Not a coincidence at all. Again, 2,000 people need to be investigated on what they knew about that email and what was being said. Somebody gonna talk. They saw how the fans felt. I don't think they care about the fans, because if they thought about the fans, they would have never did that in the first place. I asked the question yesterday. Now, who the hell did the NFL think wanted to see that? Who did they think would find that entertaining? That means you didn't care about any of your fans, not the ones that look like him or the ones that are decent, the ones that are human and have a conscience and a brain. So I don't know what heathens you was thinking about that you trying to satisfy, but that is not the majority of your fan base. Young man never was in the media for nothing wrong. Yeah, he never did a thing. That's why I say, what does Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, and Shedeur Sanders, it is not a coincidence that the team Shedeur was forced to go to is the same team where Deshaun Watson is, with a $230 million fully guaranteed contract, because he asked for a trade. Not a coincidence. Not a coincidence. People are trying to figure out how to move him somewhere else. Because here's the thing. Let's say if I keep Dylan and Shedeur, people will be like, what the hell are you doing? It's just further incompetence, right? Then they're not going to let Dylan go. They wouldn't even put Shedeur before Dylan on the depth chart. They wouldn't even put Shedeur. They let Dylan do the reps first at the rookie minicamp. People talked about that, and the head coach was like, don't read into that. He like, don't read into that, because he know they reading into everything. In my opinion, Dylan and Shedeur need to use this Cleveland situation camp as what? An audition. Because somebody is going somewhere, and I don't see Cleveland keeping Shedeur. Who do we know that was not happy, visibly upset that they had to draft Shedeur? If he still worked there, it ain't happening. If he gone, maybe. But to me, the owner was, I think the owner was in on luring him, because why would you allow your GM to meet with Shedeur extensively when you know you had Deshaun Watson contract? So I don't trust the owner. That's why I don't like Cleveland. So I don't see Cleveland being fair towards Shedeur. I don't. I think people are trying to figure out, since the whole thing came out about the phone number with the waiver wire, okay, well, we can't cut him because that's going to make people upset. And they're going to say, you knew he wasn't getting drafted. You knew he was getting cut. And that's what we're going to say, because that's what I'm going to say. I'm waiting. I think they don't want to let Dylan go because they're trying to save face, and that's going to be a problem. That's going to be a problem. They was all in his family. How y'all doing this, that, and the other? We can't wait to get you. You know, I heard one media guy say, well, you know, it wasn't talked a lot, but Cleveland did an extensive pre-draft meetings with Dylan Gabriel. I need the date of the first meeting. What was the date that Cleveland started the pre-draft process with Dylan Gabriel? It wasn't right away. They pivoted. And it likely had something to do on or before March 31st, or when the owner came out and said, we took a big swing and missed with Deshaun Watson. So now this is the second person that publicly had to be threatened. Mike Tomlin, Andrew Berry. The only difference between Mike Tomlin and Andrew Berry, besides their titles in the league, is Mike Tomlin did not disparage Shedeur. He didn't go along with the foolishness that New York was putting out there, which is why his GM was about to combust. But Cleveland did. Oh, we got him like for cheap, basically. We didn't think his price first time, he was too expensive for the first round. Lies, because you knew he was expensive, so you kept chasing him. That's what I say. Everything that Andrew Berry said can be disproven. It can show you that he's lying, he's in on it too. And somebody in Cleveland gonna eventually be a scapegoat. I think it's him. I do. I think it's him. Mike Tomlin might be safe now because he went from 2 black quarterbacks to 2 white ones. I'll be getting my resume ready though. I don't know how you don't get sick and tired of that though. I mean, I get it. You can have a nice life, but you can't take the money you already made and flip it into something where you could do something where people respect you. I remember in high school, we're talking about how some people think all black people are impoverished. I'm not from Texas, but I did go to high school in Texas. And I remember somebody asking me, was I from Fifth Ward, which I didn't know what the hell it was. I was like, what? I know my accent was heavy back then too. I know my accent was heavy because I still say make groceries. So, but that's when that's where I recall the first time something like that happening, because I went to private school in New Orleans and everybody was black, except for a few of the nuns, and we didn't look at them as white. I don't even think they was white, but then they could have been, but we didn't know. Everybody was black. Everybody. Even the priests at the school were black, except for this one. And we didn't really realize he was white. He was Irish. So it's true that people think that. I don't know why that is. Even when you see evidence to the contrary, Michael Jordan is wealthy, right? So that means all the children that he has are born into what? Well, y'all watch basketball with LeBron James. His sons are wealthy. They were born into what? Okay, so how is it that people trick their brain into thinking certain people all look alike? Number one, even though black people have countless skin tones. How do you do that? How do you trick yourself into believing that you and people that look like you are wealthy and people that look like black people are not? I don't know. Even when you see evidence to the contrary, that's some kind of Jedi mind trick. It's crazy. It's lunacy. That's what you want to believe. And that's what the NFL owners did when it came to Shedeur, and they colluded against him to lock him out by saying, get that entitled. I need the whole statement. I need the whole statement. Get that entitled what? You don't want this entitled what? When that was a lie. And that's how they wanted to believe the defamation. They knew about it. And it answers my question that I asked through the process. Why would the NFL allow the media and these coaches to defame a draft prospect like this? Now you know the answer, because they in on it. Collusion. That should be a lot of people fired right now. But there's some conversations happening behind the scenes, and they pandering for protection. Because the last thing they expected was accountability from fans. That's different. And they have a lot of fans. And it's a lot of people out there who probably waiting on the next move. I said it yesterday. The time to issue the next one isn't right now. Wait a minute. Let's see what happened next. Because then you can add Cleveland and single them out. Hell, you can go directly against Cleveland by itself. So that's why I said the time to issue the next one is not. This one just dropped. Just wait. And the next one should definitely be more than $100 million. I think maybe because it keeps happening. It should definitely be more than $100 million. The Saints QB retired today because of injuries. David Carr, yeah. There is no reason why he shouldn't have been drafted by the Saints. Right, because here's what I think. I think it is quite possible that when people saw Alvin Kamara down with the Saints and we all got excited and they started talking about that people rebelled against that, right? Because it was said that there were people on the ground saying there are people that want that to happen. Shedeur to the Saints would have been huge. I'm telling y'all, I was in the city and I was like, I'm gonna get out of here. Y'all know I always want to stay at least a day or two, have fun. Because when you know what it is and what it is not, you have to move different. And we know what the NFL is and what it is not. And we have to move different. It's not about talent. The draft is not about talent. They're not trying to build winning teams. So we have to move different. I can't be excited and run around with anything with their signature on it. I'm wearing this because I already wore it. I'm just proving a point. I'm a CU fan, but I'm an NFL fan too. I grew up with the Saints-Falcons rivalry. I have pictures with me and my friends, wherever it was that we were when the Falcons played, with our toys before at the hotel before we went to the game, and it was cold. My point is fans. And I said, who is going to hold these people accountable? And here we go. The fans. That is huge. That's moving different. That's fans not waiting for others who haven't done it up to this moment. They are not above reproach, and fans have power. Fans, we have to move different. We don't like how they tried to set up Shedeur, and that's why they need to move differently themselves. If he is the one that's going to another team, even if it is Jacksonville and it's already planned, the way you go about it matters. Because if they do the little dog and pony show where we cut him and 3 days later, let's get him, you don't have a luxury. You better handle him with care. Because the fans have the power, and that is obvious. And if they think, oh, we're going to dismiss that and the other, that ain't going to be the last one. That ain't going to be the last one. So, it is what it is. So, I just wanted to make sure that we understand going forward that Tom Brady narrative, if you hear it, refute it. Tom Brady was not elite. We actually talked about that a couple of days ago. And I said, I didn't know Tom Brady's draft story. Well, I know now. I looked into it. He was not elite. So even for Tom Brady to tell that to Shedeur, shut up. Just shut up. Because it's not even the same thing. He was elite. You weren't. Even if you were mad, you still were never elite in the draft. Shedeur was. So it's not the same thing. So refute that when you hear it. So there's 96 of us. Please make sure there are at least 96 likes. We're close. We're at 71, 96. Thank you for a Saturday night. Awesome. And I'm sure the Saints knew he was going to retire. Right. Right. And I was trying to figure that out. I was like, okay. They said he was going to be out with an injury, and that was paving the way for Shedeur. That's what people were talking about. And then all of a sudden, after they get their guy, he's retiring. But see, that's what was going on in Pittsburgh. Aaron Rodgers refused to commit to Pittsburgh until after they passed up Shedeur. Then he decided he going to Pittsburgh. At least I believe that that's where he's going. And Will Howard, they got him as well. After being a Cowboys fan for years, I finally realized that the team definitely was about winning. The only want to be good enough to sell. Right. That's what I'm saying. You can't even look at the NFL the same because who said that? Kay Hayes. Hayes. Kay Hayes. Okay. Think about it. We were already having that conversation. Des Bryant mentioned it years ago and caught flack for it. Then I posted a photo of number 11 that left Dallas and went Demarcus Lawrence or something like that, and went to Seattle. And Michael Parsons was upset with him because when he left, he said, I'm glad I left because I was never going to win a Super Bowl there. And Michael Parsons, I don't even know if he even got his contract yet. He was upset with the guy. I said, how are you upset with him for saying something that you should be able to see because you on the ground in Dallas? See, here's the whole thing with the owner situation. Regardless of what year they were born, okay, they clearly in 2021 have the mentality that blacks are inferior to whites. Okay, it's not just the NFL. Okay, you got to pay $1 billion settlement is little talked about. That's making sure it doesn't get talked about. Because why? You don't want your fans, especially your black fans and possibly your players, to know that you think like this. So here we are. It's already discussed that Dallas could care less because they make so much money between the TV deals, sponsorships, and they're resting on their laurels. They go back to the 70s and 80s when they were iconic. And I asked the question after Philadelphia won in 2025 after the Super Bowl, who is America's team now? People started to say Philadelphia is America's team now. People are starting to move away from Dallas because it's stale, right? They're resting on their laurels because they used to be great. So the owner don't care, which if Michael Parsons still don't have a contract, that's why. And it also explains why he should have never been upset with the guy if that was DeMarcus Lawrence that said what he said when he left. He was like, you waited till you left to say it. Well, that makes him smart. That makes him smart because he probably would have never got out of there. If Deshaun Watson could endure the type of negative campaign that came out about him, and then they do a reverse, give him his trade in $230 million, that shows you that they can collude against you and make your life hell and keep you on this team because how dare you have asked for a trade? So he was right to say what he said, and he was right to say it when he left. That tells you he know who he worked for. I'm not mad at him for that. But Michael Parsons being upset with him made me feel like Michael Parsons was upset that he's still there. And he don't have a contract. The fact that he didn't even have a contract at the time should tell him that DeMarcus Lawrence, who left and said it, was correct. Because if they don't value you, they don't give a damn. So, Dallas had this allure about itself. And it's true, they fans showed up like the Giants fans. Win, lose, or draw. But Kiel told us, and I hadn't seen Kiel in a minute. Kiel told us what? That the Giants fans basically started to revolt with their wallets. The same thing happened with the Carolina Panthers. And understand that some of these teams were playing with their quarterbacks because they were Heisman winners in college and starting black QBs. We did the show, we talked about it. Bryce Young in Carolina. So, essentially, winning is not the priority. Now we see the draft is not the talent is not the priority. If you don't want to win and you don't want to draft for talent, then you just out here, playing with these people. You out here holding, I guess it's called keep away. You're playing keep away with the Super Bowl. Oh, I make money off of merch, but I'm not going to let you win the Super Bowl. That's for the players. And it's not a coincidence that who some of the highest paid players are. It's not a coincidence why Josh Allen was paid $330 million. Because they didn't want to give Lamar Jackson, somebody they have colluded against twice, his just due. Lamar Jackson, in my opinion, is what Shedeur will become. Always a reminder of the dirt and why they wanted to switch him to wide receiver. They said Lamar Jackson suffered from the Deshaun Watson dual threat curse. Well, what the hell was Deshaun Watson suffering from? Because we know he wasn't the only one. So if you don't want a dual threat and you don't want a pocket passer, or is it that you just don't want any more black elite QBs? And Shedeur going forward will be that guy, just like Lamar Jackson being snubbed, but unanimous MVP, then winning it again. Then he was going to win it a third time, and you see they intervened. Oh, now we can't have you win this a third time. And how am I going to justify giving the number 2 QB $330 million? That was all a setup. It happens so frequently. A lot of the collusion used to take place behind closed doors. Now they wanted it to happen publicly because it was extreme that they keep Shedeur play keep away with him being a QB1. That's all it was. And that's a shame to do that to the young man because of their personal bias, because that's all it was. Their personal bias isn't even founded. You know why the majority of the QBs are black at QB1? Because the hell that they put them through, they got to be good. It's not a coincidence they have risen to the top. As you can see, when it comes to certain people, unfortunately, they go with their preference. So you got elite talent that has to be elite going against my preference. Who you think gonna win? That's your fault. That's your fault. They actually created that situation. Hey, everybody. He's going to get his money back threefold. Watch the endorsements. No. See, that's another thing. When people say that, while it's true, he can get his money in endorsements, he should have his contract money for 4 years at $70 million. Signing, if you take him between, what team was he forced to? The Cleveland Browns, who had the number 2 pick first round. Then that's the money you give him. You gave it to a defensive tackle. That tell me you didn't even believe in Dylan Gabriel enough to take him. And in your excuse that you had to bury yourself from under Deshaun Watson, but you gave the money to a defensive tackle, means you spent the money regardless. And you still don't have a proper QB1. Your QB, you who could be QB1 is 3 and 4 on your depth chart. So it was never about Deshaun Watson, ever. Just like Deshaun Watson asking for a trade, and suddenly this smear campaign starts, then he gets a trade and $230 million because it was never about Deshaun Watson either. So yeah, he gonna get his money, but he need to get it from them and his endorsements. You got to know his sponsors are not happy about the way he's being treated. That's messing with their money too. So yeah, he gonna get it, but he should get it from his contract. It's not right. It's not right trying to force him to compete when he was already the best. That makes no sense. Just because you don't want to believe it, that's on you. And my thing is, it's funny how they want to capitalize off of these teams, off of these players. They just don't like the players. I want to make money off of you, but I don't want to respect you. That makes absolutely no sense. Sell the team to somebody that wants to win and make the money. But see, that doesn't seem to be an option, does it? I think that's why these ownership groups are coming on more and more and more. The most recent ownership group additions was the Buffalo Bills with Tracy McGrady and Vince Carter. It didn't help Atlanta, though. It didn't help Atlanta. Maybe it helped some of the other teams. Shiloh gonna be good. I hope he make the team. I'm gonna just be honest. I don't know how you could trust it. I don't know how you could trust it because you took the elite QB from CU and pushed him down to the 5th round. You weren't gonna draft him at all. You weren't gonna draft him at all, and then he get drafted, and suddenly CU players get drafted. So if you weren't gonna draft him, were you gonna draft them? What y'all think about that? If They were not going to draft Shedeur and make him an undrafted free agent. And they only seemed to start drafting CU players after Shedeur was forcibly being drafted. Was that performative? Were they even going to draft the CU players? Or were they just going to snub everybody and make everybody from CU undrafted free agents? I mean, we don't know. But that was definitely a plan, and the plan changed. And when the plan for Shedeur changed, it seemed to get everybody else through. So let's see who make the team. So I'm not getting my hopes up. I see Shiloh doing his streaming. I think that's a good thing. Cleveland is that trouble team along with the Titans. Yep. Yes, Regina. I don't hear much about the Titans minicamp. Anybody watching it? I've seen Carolina. I've seen McMillan catching passes, T-Mac from Arizona. I've seen Jimmy Horn Jr. They were talking to him about special teams and what he'll be doing living in Charlotte. I've seen Baltimore do a jersey presentation with LaJohntay Wester, who also been balling out. Who else? Let's see. Obviously, we saw Shedeur. Travis Hunter, we've seen Travis Hunter. Cameron Simmer-Craig is down there too. We heard about Will Shepard. And I mean, obviously Shedeur, is the only one in Cleveland, I think. So, everybody seems, to be getting looks. Now, here's the thing. There were players that were invited to camp. I don't know much about that. Maybe we can look into that tomorrow. Shane Coates, maybe. Levanta Bentley. A lot of them were invited to rookie mini camp. So some kind of camp, maybe just regular training camp. And then that's where they get to, prove themselves or whatever. So we need to, I'm excited for everybody. But I think, what did I say? When people show you who they are, you got to move different. And I think it would be remiss of us to just sit here and believe that they're going to do right by any of these players. That's just how I feel. I think we have to also look at it just like we looked at it as Shedeur. So somebody forced you to take him. So did somebody force you to take them? And if you're going to cut him or you're going to cut them, you have to be honest about it. You can't sit up here and think that this was specific to Shedeur, because if you do, then, you're not being realistic about the fact that this happens quite a bit. That means that you buying the narrative that Shedeur was the problem. That means you buying the narrative that Lamar Jackson was the problem. So yes, I believe Cleveland is that team. So if anybody been watching the Titans, y'all let me know. Oh, I did see what's his name? Jalen Milroe, like I said, throwing darts out there in Seattle. I haven't had a chance to look at their depth chart yet to see where he is. Oh yeah, absolutely. Who is that? Teddy. Yep. No, I totally agree. Of course. That's why I think he called it out. That's why he was specific when he said, if any team wants to win now, you will draft him immediately. That was essentially saying y'all don't want to win. He was telling everybody, people that wasn't even paying attention. Oh, that NFL not about winning. That's why he announced the draft in 2027. That's why I say we see who run the NFL now. Hey Jerry, how you doing? How you doing? How you doing? Hell, all the videos that the Browns been putting up, making them look real dumb right now. All I know is I saw their social media, and Shedeur was at the time had 200,000 likes per post. Nobody came anywhere near 100,000. He is the most popular player in rookie camp. All the media wanted to talk to him. Everybody took the videos from the camp and analyzed it and, said, he did well. He scored a touchdown in camp. People wanted to try to pick apart why was Dylan starting with the reps that day over Shedeur. I'm like, I don't care about none of it. I want to see who's going to get cut. Then I'll pay attention. I'm like, because I don't believe none of it. I believe if you didn't want him and you're not treating him right, in my opinion, it's performative. until because see, they got thrown for a loop. They were not going to draft him. They were forced into it. So what do I do now? And I better watch myself how I go about it. If Trump was the one that said about Shedeur, I would think that they would want to, you know, be a little cautious on how they make their next move where Shedeur is concerned. But Cleveland, still trying to make it look like he's not a priority, which basically it shows you why this organization has been troubled since 1999. They just don't understand how to conduct business or don't want to know, or it's not their motivation or their priority. It's just a mess. And that's what I meant by people would rather defame a QB that could get his team to the Super Bowl because he's black rather than fix these crappy teams. No accountability. Joe Flacco ain't mentioning Shedeur has much better mentors. Yeah. I don't know what I really think that they were trying to bring back the nostalgia with Joe Flacco, but he's 40. And that's what people don't get. He's 40 coming up competing. And I'm not talking about Shedeur and Dylan. I told y'all that ain't no competition. That's just I got to do something. 40-year-olds playing with 23-year-old. Everybody can't do it. If you say Tom Brady did it, I'm like, and how old was he when he left? 40, 42? Oh yeah, Joe Flacco mentoring. Yeah. Mm-mm. I don't see it. Shedeur is so much better. Well, we said that in college. Who said that? 22. We said Shedeur was better than Dylan Gabriel in college. We said the Heisman Committee snubbed Shedeur intentionally. We were speculating on if it was because they didn't want Coach Prime to be one coach of the year, two, have two Heisman candidates at the same time, because that would make Coach Prime look good. And they had to, and remember, they did not give Travis his props at first. Remember, people forget they was not always rolling with Travis like that. They were trying to snub both of them. And to me, that means it was about Coach Prime being successful as a black head coach after they destroyed so many careers at the college level. Herm Edwards and the one guy I mentioned all the time from Texas A&M, Kevin Sumlin. So, somebody what? Somebody suing, yeah. Hey, Daly, how you doing? It's not okay what happened to an innocent person. Right. Elite talented. Shedeur is not day 3 talent, despite what Cleveland is trying to sell us. And why y'all working so hard to try to convince us that y'all wasn't forced to take him? We could look at your faces and see you was forced to take him, regardless of why. Regardless of why. Why keep the lie going? Cover up. Like drinking water. For them, anyway. Have my team do what? Put your poll up. Oh, okay. Did you hit the like button? Yes or no? Oh, that's good. Okay. All right. We'll do that. Thank you so much. I like that idea. Thank you for that, G. Riley. The legendary Doug Williams and Randall Cunningham. Now, I know who Doug Williams is, but I don't know much about his time in the league. I cannot imagine that it was good in terms of how he was treated. I think he might be on the evolution of a black quarterback. I wish we could watch that as a podcast together. I really do. Because it's good. It's really good. Somebody said we keeping 12. We don't even want two back. I don't know. I think I have a video where when the players I don't even know if Shedeur had been drafted yet, but when some of the players got drafted, they went on to the facility where the team has their campus or whatever. And there's a video of a few Cleveland players trying to pick jersey numbers, and they were just selecting their numbers. They wanted this one, that one, etc. The guy was working in the system trying to see if it was available so they could get it or whatever. But it seems like I've read 2 stories that Shedeur was assigned number 12, and that's why I told y'all I'm hoping it's a message that he's the one that's going to be moving on. And again, I have no problem with that, but how you go about it, you handle him with care. That's all we can say. Can we get another 45 likes? Yes, there are 124 of us. Yay! As it gets later in the night on a Saturday, we get more people because people are out going to dinner after a long week or after a week of doing nothing, just trying to get out the house, depending on what you got going on. The Saints are sorry. Ooh, the fans are not happy at all. And you know what's so sad? Like, I don't know why they don't care about the fan base, but they don't. And they already know they were the ain'ts. They are back to the ain'ts. And I have no idea why you play politics when you have a city waiting for you to get somebody to get them to the next level, but you don't do it because why? You have a preference. So you basically told the entire city of New Orleans, we don't care about winning. They are a poverty franchise, in my opinion. New Orleans don't even have the luxury to do what Dallas is doing. Dallas at least is worth $10 billion. Not that what they're doing is right, but the point is, come on. I don't think New Orleans is up there like that. If I look at the valuation of NFL teams rankings, I don't think New Orleans is up there. And to me, the organization, both the Pelicans as well as the Saints, being run straight into the ground. That's why I would not be surprised if before 47 exits office, if he don't change the Constitution first, that Silver Petita is the owner of the Saints. And I'm not going to be mad. I'm not going to be mad. I'm not going to be mad because based on what I saw, it needs to happen. One thing about it, everything he's associated with, understand, is first class. Everything. His family name is on the athletic facilities at U of H, the medical school, the new medical school they have at U of H, and his name is on the buildings at UNLV. Understand, when Shedeur and Cam Ward were working out in the background, you saw Fertitta Center at UNLV on the building. All of his restaurants are good. The chain that he has, I've never been to their casinos, but what I do believe is that the organization would make money. I think they would make good decisions. I think it's just initially people that liked him because who he associated with, which is why the Houston Rockets had such turnover the way they had it. But I don't even know if the Rockets are in the playoff. And I used to be an avid Rockets fan too. So I don't know what's going on with that. But I think he hired the guy from Boston after that scandal. So, maybe winning is important there. I don't know. But there's some other issues there too. But in the last couple of years, it doesn't seem to be an issue just when he first bought the team. The garbage QB they have will be the laughing stock of the NFL. You know what I think it's about for those players who truly are mediocre? Let's just be real. It's about the money. That's what they want. See, Shedeur not chasing the bag. He really just chasing greatness. His father is greatness. He's just chasing greatness. But with some of these players that they know are mediocre, it's about giving them the money. Because that's what they wanted to do. I got to give it to somebody. I don't want it to give it to you. I want to give it to you. Don't think that that's not what's happening. That's been happening. Because if it was Jalen Milroe, Shedeur Sanders, and Cam Ward, it's like they said, okay, we can't snub all three. So who getting snubbed? Who did the story work for? Shedeur. Jalen Milroe, the story didn't work for him. And people didn't even realize he got snubbed too. Because they wanted to make it about Shedeur. They barely talked about Jalen Milroe. Hell, they barely talked about Cam Ward. I haven't really seen Cam Ward practice footage. I'm sure it's out there. But I've seen Carolina. I've seen Shiloh in the Bucks. I haven't seen any. I don't know who else plays for the Bucks. I know Will Shepard was supposed to go there, but I've seen LeJounte, I've seen Jimmy, I've seen Shiloh, and I've seen Shedeur, and I've seen Travis. They have other people on those teams. So either the CU fan base is strong on the NFL side, or we have a lot of people who are watching our guys from CU. All right, y'all. So we're going to get ready to get out of here. We're 1 hour and 50 minutes. 133 of us, 133. That always happens toward the end of the podcast, which is why sometimes on Saturday, I start at 10 o'clock because people are out, running around doing things. But I kind of wanted to be consistent with the time so y'all don't have to guess when is she going to be on. So I just stayed with it. Okay, I'm going to read some more y'all's comments too. The SWAT. Quite a few HBCU players got in the draft too, and signed to camp. We're gonna see who makes it. Playing with LeJounte in Baltimore. I don't know if y'all know, but there was a football player, Vincent, who played for Alabama A&M University. He got drafted. I think, and he's with LeJounte in Baltimore. So yeah, Baltimore was showing their players real love, showing their families, giving them personal messages. They really did a good showing of the jersey presentation. That's how they got us emotionally invested in the rookies. And that's why I say they spend billions to make sure we're emotionally invested. So they spent a lot of money to make sure we were lured to watch Shedeur Sanders' public humiliation. Khalil Benson. Oh, yeah. I heard he came back to graduate. Oh, okay. I think Kamara was pushing for the Saints to get Shedeur. But yeah, that would have been dope. Oh, I'm telling you that. And see, to me, I mean, it's not too late. It's not too late, but I don't think they're going to do the right thing. Because the reason why they snubbed Shedeur and Jalen Milroe. Obviously, Shedeur worse, but, it's still bad for what they did to Milroe. It's y'all really think it's a coincidence they snubbed top 3, Cam, Shedeur, Milroe. Milroe running at 4.37 made him the top 3. You didn't hear anybody talk about him, but all you heard was Jackson Dart was going to sneak into the first round. I told y'all where he was going. I don't even know why he had to sneak, because if he had to sneak, he's not good. So they snubbed 2 black quarterbacks, and they sent Dart and Shaw, 2 lesser talented white QBs, to the teams that they didn't want to have black QB1s. Because remember the chart that we looked at? Remember who we said who was gaining in share and who was just swapping black quarterback for black quarterback? It was even said that Shedeur going to Cleveland, this is before the draft, was just a swap of black QB for black QB. They weren't making up any ground there. So now you know why he was forced to Cleveland. Because the Saints didn't have a black quarterback. Derek Carr is obviously not black. So that would have been gain right there. I told y'all before, they had been stacking black players, and then they started spreading out the white ones. So they had black players like Russell Wilson and Justin Fields stacked on the same team. But then they decoupled, in my opinion, J.J. McCarthy, Sam Darnold, and Daniel Jones. They took the 3 of them and spread them out so they could have more of the preference that they wanted to see at QB1 on the teams. So Sam Darnold went to Seattle, who's now with Jalen Milroe, and I need to check the depth chart there. Then you have Daniel Jones, who shouldn't even be getting another opportunity at $14 million or $4 because he already made $101 million with a 25, 45, and 1 record. Like, there's nothing else to prove. That's just what they want to do. And they put him behind Anthony Richardson so he could basically replace Anthony Richardson at QB1, and that would be less than 16. See, there's a method to the madness. And that tells you what it's about. What did I say we're going to do when the season starts? We're going to pay attention to what happens with the QBs. That's why I follow the QBs. I already knew how they were treating the QBs. It became obvious. Jalen Hurts. I went back and watched his whiteboard. Let's see if Shedeur ever ends up on YouTube like the rest of them. Probably not. People try to say, oh, it went badly when he met with the Giants. I'm like, you mean the last time when they forced the meeting on him, when they were trying to bully him? They're not talking about that no more. It's like they had to stop talking about that because it's defamation. There's no proof of it. Then put the information out there. They're quiet because, oh, Miss Sweatshirt guy. People, they don't want people talking or seeing that because then more and more people would ask, who is that? That's not so-and-so's son. So what they did was, before they stopped talking about it, they tried to confuse people into thinking that old Miss Sweatshirt guy, prank caller, was the defensive coordinator's son, and it is not. So we will be watching. But Cleveland, until you do right by Shedeur, that's my mantra. Trump is on the NFL head because they wouldn't let him buy a team. Right. So instead of him being a team owner, he directing them on what to do. Yep. And I'm sure he's gonna offer some type of protection. Yes, he did hire a former Boston coach. Okay, you talking about the Houston Rockets. Okay. Are the Rockets in the playoffs? I don't know. I hadn't been following. Yes, he needs to be selling his own merch. I know why he's not selling it though. He just let it run out. What he's doing is everything is football. He's learning the playbook. And honestly, with Shedeur in his spare time, he was always reading plays and this, that, and the other. That's why he was so good. He spent just like guys that used to play basketball for hours upon hours outside, and they went on to be the best because they worked harder at it than anybody else. And the best get into the league. Why? Even though they make their lives hard, they still get into the league because why? They're winners. And this year's the year they didn't care about winning. This year's the year they started with, okay, well, the draft don't need to be about talent. So they're willing to destroy their own brand. There is a saying, a quote. If some people can't be the captain, they will sink the whole ship. And that's what I see happening. And what I mean by that is they will destroy it all. They will destroy it all till it's nothing. And that's why this is the perfect opportunity for Coach Prime, in my opinion, to start his own league. That's what needs to happen. You know how successful he will be? And it would be their fault because look at how they sacrificed him and his son. He could do it. I think, honestly, I think he should do it. But maybe he feels like because he's at CU, he got to keep that pipeline going. So, he's advocating for let's get back to family. Something happened. Let's move on. I don't know. I don't think that's the way to go. When people show you who they are, yes, you should believe them, but you should also move different. Now, I did hear that the QB coach in Cleveland is somebody that Coach Prime knew. Now, I don't know if that's the same person or if it's somebody else. But when I was reading up on it, it said that supposedly the QB coach is that person. Now, there were rumors that Stefanski didn't want Shedeur. So I don't know how true that is either because Stefanski was the only person, even though he was not, in my opinion, welcoming like they were with Dylan Gabriel. They were more engaging. He keeping it professional if he don't want him there. And that's all I can ask for. Here's the thing. You might not want me somewhere, but you're going to respect me. That's what you're going to do. And that's what I need to see from Cleveland for Shedeur. And that's what I meant by until Cleveland do right by Shedeur. You better respect him because you drafted him. And if you got forced into it, that ain't his problem. That's y'all's problem. So we shall see. Thank you, Regina. Happy Mother's Day to everybody. Whatever they're doing it deliberately. Yeah, that's facts. How quickly they forget that two went to the sideline and drew up the plays. I believe at Texas Tech, so they can miss me with the. All right, and some people were upset that he had the opportunity to have input in the plays, and it's not because necessarily that he's black. Honestly, it's because they feel threatened that they're going to lose their jobs. So that's why you had so many people at different levels on it. The league sending out his phone number to 2,000 people and having a waiver wire attached to the email. The NFL owners colluding against him for all 32 teams agreed not to draft him and let him fall out of the draft until President Trump, number 47, showed up. Then you have the coaches and the GMs. Y'all saw how Andrew Berry was acting, and then y'all saw how Mike Tomlin moved off of him because of the phone calls, and then y'all saw the defamation at the team level, right? And then you have this whole thing with, okay, Atlanta didn't give out his information, but the story that they sold us that we don't know if it's true or not, the prank happened at an executive level. That was insider information. So it was at every level of the NFL to try to keep progress from happening, to try to keep what is likely inevitable from happening if you claim you want to win. It was an effort to go back to the good old days for some people to get Joe Flacco, if you ask me, and to draft Ole Miss quarterback who is seemingly aligned with the rest of the Ole Miss alum, Eli Manning, Archie Manning, to try to capture that crowd to come back and watch the league, because maybe they felt like that crowd was dwindling because the majority of the starters are black. But people like myself who like football, who like sports, we want to see competitive football. And that's what they're at odds with. How do I remain competitive and prevent black starting quarterbacks from becoming the majority in the league? That's the dilemma that they have. They're willing to blow up the league. If not, just sell it. Just sell it to other teams and move on with your biases. Why you won't do that? Because it makes too much money. So you really think that they're going to blow up the league and move away from competition going forward if the fans don't like it? No. So they're going to bow down to somebody or something. And it's likely going to be progress. All right, y'all, we're going to get out of here. We're going to get out of here. We're going to get out of here. Y'all were awesome. We're going to get ourselves out of here and come back and see y'all tomorrow. Oh, it's Mother's Day. So, yeah, it'll be tomorrow night. I'll probably check in, see how everybody's doing. All right, y'all. So thank you so much. And thank you for your patience. I'm using the YouTube platform. So I saw a comment that said y'all couldn't see me for a minute. So, yeah, we just have to kind of work through those things and figure out where the controls are. But I do like the YouTube platform because the moderators get to do their thing, and then I get to do mine. So thank you to my day ones. Thank you to the moderators. Thank you to What She Said friends and families. We do have memberships. And I will drop a poll asking, did you hit the like button? Yes or no? All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate y'all's support. Thanks for watching What She Said Sports. See y'all tomorrow. And happy Mother's Day, everybody.